And welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And I'm Adam.
Today, to kind of celebrate the middle of summer and with the new Amazon Prime show coming out, we thought it would be fun to do another retro review. We haven't done one of these for a while. So today we're going to be talking about A League of Their Own from 92, 93. I should have looked
92.
1992.
There we go. Good work, guys. Great teamwork there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if anybody out there is unfamiliar with this movie, Adam, would you like to tell them what it's about?
Indeed. Two sisters join the first female professional baseball league and struggle to help it succeed amid their own growing rivalry. I think it's important to note that we call this a retro review, and the 90s don't really feel like that retro, but it's been 30 years, so you get what you get.
Yeah.
True. And also because it is a retro review, if you're new to the show, we will definitely be discussing the full movie, spoilers included, ending included. So if you haven't seen it, I would say go check it out. It's on Amazon Prime, and then come back and listen and hear us talk about why we like it so much.
So really quick, Adam, you looked a little caught off guard when I said the show that's going to be coming out.
Yeah. Is there a League of Their Own show that's coming out, or what's the deal there? Oh, neat.
So that it comes out on Prime in August, which is why Dylan and I wanted to review the movie before the show came out. Abby Jacobson from Broad City is one of the creators and co-stars, along with the director of Mozart in the Jungle, which is one of my favorite Amazon Prime original shows. Okay. So it's in good hands. This is a movie I grew up with and I loved. I've watched at least 50 times in my life. So I hope the show is really good. I saw an interview with Abby Jacobson and a couple other people talking about how much they loved the movie growing up and how they just saw an opportunity to expand on the stories off the field for a lot of these women, and also just have a larger platform to expand on what's going on here. And I really hope it's good. I'm really looking forward to it. It's got good people involved, but today at least we're going to be talking about the movie. So just wanted to let people know that that's out there as well, or will be.
I'm excited for that. Like, now having seen the movie, I didn't know that existed, so that'll be really fun.
So I guess really quick, I just said I've seen this movie like at least 50 times in my life. Had either of you guys seen this before?
Yeah, I'd seen it before a handful of times probably, but not in a while, and not since we've been doing this podcast and stuff. Yeah, so it was nice to see it again, start to finish, with maybe a little more critical eye, or just like, I know exact kind of more what I'm looking at, but I definitely saw it as a kid, and I feel like it's a movie that was on TV like every once in a while too. So
yeah, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is funny because for like most of my movies that I've seen as a younger child was on TV, like TNT and stuff, and I feel like I missed this. Although I have seen the no crying in baseball part and the ending. I had seen those previous to actually seeing it. I mean, those are kind of the things that have survived, I think. Definitely the no crying in baseball quote and that whole
the no crying in baseball thing, I think, is the lasting.
It's bigger than the movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So Adam, you hadn't seen this before?
I hadn't seen it all the way through before, so it was really.
I kind of want to start with you then. What'd you think?
Okay, I really liked it. I mean, I watched it with my girlfriend, and definitely the parts with like John Lovitz, or starting out with Tom Hanks's character being just the ball of garbage that he is. It's a comedy, and when those characters have their comedic moments, she kind of looked at me like, do we really want to watch this? Like, this is kind of misogynistic. And I was just like, it's funny. This is straight up funny. It's making fun of those people. It's not supposed to be serious. It's making fun of those people, which is why it's good.
I would say like it is making fun of that. And obviously the topic, I mean, what the movie is about, a women's baseball league during World War II. I mean, there's going to be a lot of misogyny, and there's going to be a lot of like that's built in. And I felt like some of it was definitely kind of early 90s humor. Like, I would say some of it was a little more heavy-handed than I feel like if this movie was released today, the John Lovitz character might have been toned down a little bit. I mean, he was really leaning into it. But once he literally just disappears from the movie after getting them to the training or whatever, once he leaves, and then especially once Tom Hanks's character stops being a drunk and starts actually being a coach and just treating them like baseball players, I felt like it really turned, and I didn't feel after
It's
that
growing.
any part where I was like, oh, maybe that didn't age well. Like I feel like once they get there and once Tom Hanks starts to kind of come out of his drunken stupor, like I think everything aged really well. It just feels like a classic sports movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It was interesting to watch this again, Dylan, like you said, now that we've been kind of reviewing movies for like 3 years, and to just think of, because I've seen it so many times, but usually now it's not like sit down beginning to end.
Yeah.
It's like it's on for a while, or like I go to bed and I throw on the first 20 minutes and fall asleep, and then like the next day think like I kind of want to see the ending again, and I'll maybe watch that or something. But it had been a long time since I watched it all the way through, and I did notice, I think it's edited really well and put together really well with how they handle the misogyny, where and to your point with John Lovitz's character, his is a little different than Tom Hanks's, and I can see where that might bother some people because we are supposed to laugh at basically everything he says, and it's sometimes with the way he plays it, it's hard to tell like who we're laughing, like who the joke is on.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's not portrayed as a nice person at all.
No.
But there are times where you find yourself laughing at a line that's like very mean and wrong.
Yeah, especially like
he
about
plays it
Marla.
so well, and the
Yeah.
reactions of the people when he is that way are so good. Like the woman that plays Marla,
Yeah.
he's so mean to her, but somehow she has these looks on her face that make it so funny because she just plays it so well. And I will often have an issue with movies, something like 42, where it feels like you're going through like a check box, like a checklist of like, okay, we need to show an example of this, and then an example of this, and then an example of this. And it feels like it sort of cuts into the flow of the movie. And in this movie, I don't feel that at all. I feel like it's woven in naturally.
Yeah.
And I noticed just that a lot this time with, I never really listened to that like PA address when they're doing the tryout before as a kid. I didn't really get all of it.
Yeah,
or
right.
thought it was just like a regular news bulletin where they were talking about it and they weren't being ridiculous and we weren't supposed to think that it was stupid. But I laughed at that quite a bit this time because of just how bad it is. But I'm sure that's exactly how it was. And I thought those things were weaved in really, really well. There was enough of it to show that it was there and that they had to handle it, but it didn't distract from the fact that like they came to play baseball. And I think that's why it works so well, because the characters try really hard to drown that out and to overcome it and not get caught up, but it keeps kind of forcing its way onto them, at least in the first half of the movie.
Yeah, and by the end of the movie, the drama is much more about the two sisters and their dynamic, and the climactic sports scenes are about them. It's not about them sticking it to the dudes or anything. Like they've already covered that, and now it's just a sports movie about two sisters, and oh my god, they're on opposite teams, and oh my god, she's at bat, of course. Like,
Well, there's a wonderful, first off, this movie has several, I think, phenomenal montages.
Oh yeah,
but there's a wonderful one
strong with this movie.
Yes. There's a wonderful one in the middle that sort of takes us from, they're like a week into the season or a month in or whatever, and the league's not going very well, and like nobody's coming to see them play. And then the great David Strathairn has some marketing ideas that he wants to do, and then all of a sudden it's like half the season that we kind of get in a montage. And it's sort of it's like a microcosm of the movie as a whole, because it starts off and you see some of these, like the ads that they're doing were just like, Betty Spaghetti enjoys knitting and making spaghetti when she's not playing baseball, or like Helen is also an accomplished coffee maker.
Oh my god, that one is
that one's super funny. And like they still are trying to be like, hey, don't worry, they're still doing woman things.
Yeah.
And
they're not being too masculine.
Right. And that's no reason to let her nose get shiny.
Yeah.
And it starts that way, and you can see like these ads that they're making, but then slowly, as you see more fans in the stands, the montage becomes about baseball. And like people are getting excited and they're making great plays, and it's just a wonderful baseball montage. And I thought it was fantastic. I'd never really thought about how well executed that montage was before rewatching it last night, but I thought it was great. And then Dylan, like you said, leads into just a great rivalry between the sisters, and then we can focus on that, and we've kind of pushed the rest of it aside.
Yeah, and just to go with the montages, I feel like all of the baseball scenes and the baseball games are very well done. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just it feels real, like real action, the hits and the throws and just the speed of the game feels accurate. And I just from the opening like tryout montage all the way to that like last at bat, I just feel like they totally at least nailed like the sports side of it for sure, which not all sports movies, especially when we go back to the 90s and 80s, actually do that good a job at.
Yeah, Adam was telling me. Adam had a note about that we were talking about before we started recording.
A note, you say?
A
Yes.
note about which part? I was looking at the trivia
Adam, we're
as you were
recording
talking.
right now. You might.
Yeah, I was looking at more trivia. I was looking at
The
more
fact that
trivia.
the baseball is so good.
Oh yeah, all of the actors in this movie had to try. They had to prove that they knew how to play baseball before they got the part. The only person who didn't know how to play baseball was Gina Davis.
Okay.
So
And you
everybody
can
else
tell
was
now
like,
that there are a couple cuts where
Yeah.
they've got a body double for her, but she does
Mhm.
well enough to make it not that noticeable.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
they
yeah,
basically just kind
the
of hand
supporting
hit.
cast did great. I mean, Madonna
And
was
Lori Petty.
Yeah. So first of all,
Lori Petty is fantastic. Even Rosie O'Donnell. I mean,
Easily Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell's best movies, I think.
yeah. And what a great pair.
Yeah.
I turned and looked at
Like-
Nicolette at one point and was like, I've never been a Madonna fan, but like I understand some of the hype now. Like she was legitimately hot and like good. And I was like, you know what? She can do everything. I was like, I understand. I get it.
Yeah, she played that really well. And Dylan, I'm glad you brought that up. And we'll get back to Madonna and one of the other super cool things about this movie in a minute.
Mhm.
But I'm glad you brought up how good the baseball is. And also, there's a thing that they do. Baseball's the only sport where they really have to worry about this. Although with other sports, it can be like, wait, that guy wasn't on the field or on the court
Yeah.
before, and now they are, and they didn't like make a change or whatever. But baseball, what you'll see a lot of times is like they don't really care when they're making the movie what the lineup looks like. And then in like the last inning, all of a sudden, it's like our three main players are all due up, but like one of them's really bad, so they wouldn't be batting like first, second, or third, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the lineup doesn't make any sense. But in this one, I like this so much because the attention to detail here is so good. It's through 8 innings, and they have 3 hits, and they haven't scored a run, so they're going to the top of the 9th, which means that they've had 27. They've had 24 outs and 3 hits, and they've batted 27 batters, which means that they're right at the top of the order again, which is exactly where they are in the top of the 9th inning. And it's such a simple sounding thing, but it's something that other baseball movies just don't give a shit about.
Yep.
And it's fantastic. I hadn't even noticed that until like a year or two ago when I watched this movie, but like the attention to detail. And I think a big part of that is because they were making was a much more important baseball movie to nail than like basically any other baseball
average
movie.
than your average sports movie, right?
Yeah, like you don't want to make a bad movie about the women's baseball league. It needs to be authentic, and like Adam, to your point about the actors, they need to prove they can play, and they just did a really good job with all of that.
No, I agree. I like how multiple times like the lineup is mentioned as like an important thing. That a ton of attention to detail. I really liked. I just really liked all of the teammates, like all the supporting cast. It just like they did such a good job of like even the really kind of players you didn't know much about, like Shirley, who like can't read, and Marla, who like finds love immediately. And it's like all these little things, but they made each teammate unique. And it felt like a cohesive thing. And the scenes on the bus and the scenes in the locker room, the scene when they get the letter that one of their husbands has done. I mean,
that's
like,
so heart-wrenching.
Like and that wouldn't have worked if it just would have been like, oh, I really like Gina Davis and Madonna. And then there's like a bunch of these other women here.
Yeah.
Like,
and then another scene on the bus that's really good. Rosie O'Donnell, when she shows one of the other girls a picture of her boyfriend, and she's kind of talking about how he sucks. Yeah. And they say, why are you with him? And she said, because he was the only one who ever treated me like a person. Like a person.
Like a girl. Yeah.
And then she's finally found all these women who are the same. And she's not weird. And she's not strange. And she's not different. And she they find camaraderie and acceptance in this as well. And I like that there are moments that show like these personal moments that show this is like, yes, they love baseball and they're there to play baseball, but this is providing so much more for them than just what's happening on the field.
The two, her two fans, her two
yes.
super fans,
super
and that's
fans.
like
Very,
you said,
very nicely done. It's not over the top or anything, but
just like 5 seconds, like them giving her
every
some
so often.
flowers. Yeah, really nice. And even with Madonna's character, like the little 10-second scene in the church when she's repenting, and Rosie O'Donnell goes, "That's the second time that he's dropped that Bible since she's been in there."
we should talk about too. This movie is really funny.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
really funny, and it has a lot of great lines. Like
Yeah.
a lot of great
script.
Mm-hmm.
I think first off, there's no crying in baseball scene is classic, and Tom Hanks is amazing.
Yep.
One of the funniest things ever in a movie is when Tom Hanks throws the baseball glove at the kid and hits him in the face.
Yes, I know.
And
Stillwell, the kid from Hell.
Stillwell, and like,
and then
the look of
over.
shock, and then he just like falls over, and then Tom Hanks celebrates, and they've somehow made a movie where a drunk man, he's not drunk at the time, but he's a drunk and kind of a prick, where the audience is cheering and laughing when a drunk 30-something throws a baseball glove at a child and hits him in the
toddler.
face.
Like,
hits him in the
toddler.
face.
He's like 8.
No, he's like 8 or 9. He's
like
8
8
or 9
at that point because he's
immature
really
for his
small
age.
for like most of the game. Or for most.
No,
of the
he's
movie.
immature for
He's
his
just
age.
really immature.
Yeah. But no, and then I love even after he gets knocked over, like they don't really show him like cry. He's sitting on the ground, and then his mom just like walks up and is like, "Hey, how you doing? Like you kind of deserve that."
Yeah.
Like, you okay? Come on.
Yeah, I've been wanting
like,
to.
I just love the way they handled that.
There are also so many moments where like something sort of funny is happening, or like people are yelling at each other, and like everyone in the background is reacting accordingly.
Yes.
Like when Tom Hanks gets kicked out of the game for calling the umpire a penis with a little hat on, which is also just a great line. The whole dugout, like they start laughing at him, and then they kind of start cheering, and then Rosie O'Donnell says like, "Okay, I'm in charge now." Just like a really quick aside, and they leave it just long enough to see May, Madonna's character, laughing at that. And it's just the camaraderie is so believable that they were a team, and they just nail all of that stuff.
For sure. Some of the other lines that I wrote down, just really funny ones. I love "I wouldn't wear those shoes again, Miss Cuthbert."
Oh yeah,
it's really subtle, but that one's great. During the infomercial when it gets to Marla Hooch, and it just goes, "And how about Marla Hooch? What a hitter!"
She's like way in the back, just like hits your face.
That's what goes like with her facial expressions, because when they do that thing where they have to go to like beauty school, and the woman just suggests a lot of night games.
Yeah.
And then Marla's just her big eyes, and she just like doesn't really know what happened, and the woman walks away, and I don't know. It's so
great like 90s comedic moment when they go and she drinks and she's singing to the guy, and like, because that's the last thing you expect.
That's what I wanted to talk about. This is, in my opinion, one of the best sports movies ever made, which makes it even more impressive that it has one of the best dance scenes in movie history.
Oh yes,
oh,
swing!
God,
I wrote that in my notes too.
God.
Swing dancing looks so much fun.
Oh my God! And I noticed at this time too, where I watched Madonna the whole time, and then Rosie O'Donnell's in there a little bit.
Yeah,
but I didn't ever pay attention until this time to seeing like the other women on the team also dancing, and they all just kind of stop and watch May.
Yeah,
they're just like shocked at how good of a dancer she is.
And the two guys kind of like competing for her, and the way they're playing off each other, like,
and the
really
music
well
is
done.
Great. It's just so good. And then that they work it so well, where Gina Davis walks in and she's telling everybody they got to leave, and we can hear someone singing.
Yeah,
but I mean, it doesn't even enter your mind.
No,
that it would be Marla.
Yeah,
and then where is she? And it says someone goes like, there. And like, just great cut, and she's just drunk and singing on the stage, and out of her shell, and everybody's just loving it, which is perfect, because everybody loves when like the shy person like kind of comes out of their shell when you're out at the bar, and they're just having a great old time. And also, if we're talking about comedic lines, maybe the best line in the entire movie is when that kid drives Gina Davis to the bar.
Yeah.
And and she. I can't remember.
He's
She's about to leave, and he says, "Hey,
we climb into the back?
What's your rush, doll, baby? Why don't you say we slip in the back seat and you make a man out of me?" She says, "Why don't I smack you around for a while?" And he just shrugs and goes, "Can't we do both?" Which is perfect.
I also really loved when it was towards the end, after Tom Hanks has made the turn and he's more of a coach or whatever, and they're at church again. And they're all like saying there, and the last thing he just goes, "God knows we have a game.
Yeah,
we got to go. Come on, God knows we have a game.
Let's go." And then they're still praying, and they're like, "Oh, please let us win." He's like, "Trust me, it doesn't help." Like, but then he stops. And he's like, "Oh, thank you." And he leaves.
And then with the hat off, I love the point at the end. That's what really makes that. It's like just such a like athlete jock thing to do, is to finish that off with like.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic. Yeah, and then I guess the one thing that I wanted to note specifically, if we're just talking like sports movie moments, just everything else out the window. I mean, the final game situations, like we've talked about, how of course it's Gina Davis who comes up, and particularly, I mean, everyone will focus on the last moment where Lori Petty gets her big hit and she's the hero, and that is fantastic. But I loved and related to, being a Minnesota sports fan, when Lori Petty is pitching still the inning before, and Gina Davis comes up and she realizes what's happening and she turns around like to look at the outfield, and we just see her face, and like that, like she just nailed that look of like the inevitable collapse. Like the inevitable, like exactly what you didn't want to happen, like of course, and you're already falling apart, and it's just so like that, like despair, but like she's gonna try to fight through it. I just felt like those like 5 seconds, then like the music kind of comes up, like just nailed that. I was just like, yep, I've been there. Like that is 100% what it feels like.
I was gonna say you shouldn't have prefaced that as a Minnesota sports fan, but yeah, it makes more sense.
I shouldn't have prefaced it. Shut up with your Lombardis and your NBA championships. We should just kick you out of this podcast. No, but Nate, you can relate. Like the way
absolutely,
when she like can't even look at her. Like, of course,
she knows she's gonna get beat, and I think other than Miracle, I think this is the best like big game in any sports movie, and they nail. It's all so perfectly done, and I love Rosie O'Donnell's character when they're pitching, when they're on defense in the last inning, when she's like screaming and like so excited at every pitch. And I mean, they do a good job of making you feel the energy and how much they all want it. And then just Lori Petty again, just playing like I just screwed this up for everybody. Yeah, and now I have to bat. And of course, here we go again.
My sister's the hero again.
Here's something that is kind of hotly debated. Do you guys think she dropped the ball on purpose?
I love that it keeps it ambiguous. I love that she never says either way, and the
way the play is, like, she hits her hard enough where like she could totally drop the ball. Yeah, I just, with the character work that they've done with Dottie up to that point, I kind of feel like she dropped it on purpose.
That's how I'm leaning as well.
I think she
I think that was part of hit the go-ahead hit against her though the inning before.
Yeah,
true. And that's and you're watching that and you're going, oh man, you wouldn't like strike out just to help out your sister. Like you're just going to crush your sister's dreams. But then the next inning, she tells the pitcher, high and fast, she can't hit him and she can't lay off him, which goes all the way back to the very first time we meet those two characters where they're talking and she gives her the advice and she's like, but I like the high ones. Like, so then it's like, okay, is she actually telling the pitcher to do that because she literally thinks she's going to strike out? Or does she think if the pitcher gives her a high pitch, she'll figure it out? Like, but I'm not going to tell her what's coming. I'm just going to
now she's going to know.
Yeah.
It's me indirectly telling her. It also, like, for Dottie, it's not about, like, she doesn't care about baseball. Like, she does, but she doesn't. It's not about her. It's about everybody else.
I want to jump into that right after this. The other thing I was going to say is I think there's a bit of a hint, if you're somebody who believes she dropped the ball on purpose, with once the count gets to 0-2 and she's waiting for the third high fastball, there's a shot where Dottie kind of looks at Kit. She takes a quick glance to kind of see if, I don't know exactly what she's looking at, but you could take that to mean like she's looking at her like, okay, I've basically told you what's coming.
Yeah.
Please
Please
be
hit
paying
this out of the
attention
park.
and hit this. But I don't know. I haven't made up my mind on that yet. But Dottie's character was the thing that I had the biggest kind of eye-opening experience on, or more thoughts on this time versus all the other times I had watched it.
Mhm.
Where I like that they set this up with two sisters, because you have one that sort of seems content to just stay in the lane that has been carved out for women in this society.
Yep.
And if that's what you want to do, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No.
Yeah, and she's not portrayed as being stupid for that or anything.
No,
she's just like,
she
this is what I
isn't.
wanted.
And they do a good job of not making Bob like an asshole. Like, she's not a victim.
Yeah,
No, he's like a very
in
good
that
dude,
relationship or anything.
right?
And then Lori Petty is the more modern, like, she wants to get the hell out of this small town. She doesn't want this domestic life. She wants to live in the big city where things happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I find it really fascinating how, I mean, you know, Dottie keeps saying it's not that important to her. She doesn't really care about it. And Kit kind of screams at her and throws it back in her face at one point and says, then why are you still here?
Yeah.
And I just kind of started thinking about the movie through this lens last night. So I haven't fully thought this out yet and all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a way that I hadn't thought about the story before. And I don't know if we're supposed to view Dottie as, maybe because she's older. I think that's important too, that she's older. She's kind of set in what she thinks she's supposed to do. I'm married. I'm happy. Let's not confuse things.
Yeah.
And my husband's back. I can't stay here anymore and not just go with my husband. But then, like, Bob isn't an asshole. When they go back, he's cheering her on with everybody else.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting way that they set up her character and Kit's to kind of be the two sides of this. Should women be allowed to do this or not? I mean, obviously the movie says yes.
Yeah.
But is it okay if they don't want to? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, Dottie her character clearly spells that out. But I do think it's pretty clear that she was enjoying that far more than she was ever willing to admit.
Oh, for sure.
Because she, especially with how much she clicked with Tom Hanks's character.
Yeah. I thought they had great chemistry. I also just realized, hearing you talk about this, when at the very beginning, when she's, an old lady and she's going to the thing and her grandsons are playing basketball, and she gives one set of advice to the older sibling, which of course was herself.
Yeah,
Kit.
I thought about that this time too. I forgot to bring it up. Though. I'm so glad you did.
I forget about it because
she says, like, he's littler than you, so don't forget to let him shoot. And, like, kind of typical, like, be a good big brother. But then she calls the younger brother over and is just like, give him hell, or like, kill him.
Kill him is what she says.
Yeah. Which is exactly what that's a nod to Kit's, like, spirit and her attitude. And I just like that. I just put that together while you were saying that. Like, yeah,
I thought about that as I was watching the movie. I forgot to write it down in my notes. I'm so glad you brought that up and that one of you guys also noticed that, because I thought about that too. And that, if you wanted to, could be more proof that she dropped the ball on purpose. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Especially after all that time had passed and, was more settled with it and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, it was just a realization that Kit cares about this more. And even if Dottie does care about it, in fact, she has other things that she's going to be fine doing. And Kit needs this, and she needs to have something of her own.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just like, it's a great sibling. This movie works on so many levels.
It does. And it's so you love to see, there's so many, like, underdogs that you love to see succeed. And specifically with Kit, like, after she hits the big home run, then she's signing autographs for little girls. And then she's going to the team bus and everybody's like, hey, Kit, come on. Like, and then even later when you meet her again at the Baseball Hall of Fame scene and she's got her family there. And it's just like that one moment changed her entire life. And it's just like, you love to see it. It just makes you feel good.
And Adam, another thing we were talking about before we started recording, I was saying how this movie does maybe the best job I've ever seen of finding younger actors for, like, their older doppelgangers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It is so spot on, and you can instantly tell who everybody is. And then Adam told me this.
So, like, every old person at the end, or even like when you look at the beginning with Dottie, that's the actual people that were on the team. So like that's all of the real players. So like
Wow,
that's a really cool like interaction
I didn't know
towards
that.
the end. Yeah, they still
That's
do that
really
like game and stuff.
cool.
Yeah, so like that's why they're having that like big opening for the at the baseball museum or
Yeah, so that's
Hall of
actually
Fame.
them walking
That's
around.
actually them walking around and
Oh,
stuff.
that is cool.
Which is dope. Like it all like when we watched it, I was like, okay, this is taking a little bit too long. Like it's just a little bit longer than I thought. Like the movie was
Well, when
over,
it gets
but,
to a lot of sports
there.
movies, a lot of
Yeah.
sports movies, when you get to the climactic sports event, that's pretty much the end of the movie. And this has like a 15, 20
Just
minute
about.
kind of epilogue, kind of we see what happens after the game, then we go back to real time and see them as reuniting.
Well, and I think they needed that screen time. I think that was that's one of the coolest
sure.
parts to see all that, because it's like, hey, you built this, we made the movie about it, and like you were the ones that lived it, and like go be inspirational for everybody else. I mean, I feel like you can do the same thing about like the women's national team, the U.S. women's national team. Soccer, because they're so good and they've been so dominant. Like you could do the same type of thing. Like it's going to inspire more people, more women to get into sports and make those sports profitable, like the WNBA, all that stuff. So
like in
really cool.
like locally here in Minnesota, just the impact that the Lynx have had on like a generation of young girls and young women now that finally got to grow up with it and not just have this new thing start when they were like 42.
Right, and now we
like,
got,
oh cool, I guess I'll watch. Like,
and now we're turning out great women's basketball players like Paige Buchers, to name one. But yeah, so I thought that was really fantastic. And then I guess last thing I want to say is we also get an all-time. I mean, we mentioned Tom Hanks, but like, man, he is in his prime. He is in his element. He is it's just so effortless. Like this character just felt so effortless. Like he's funny, he's affable. Like even when he's drunk, he's kind of funny, but also like there's a real problem there. And like you like to see him overcome that. And I love the little speech he kind of gives when she's going to leave and they're just standing in the front lawn of that house and they're going to go to the World Series and she's going to go back with Bob. And just like, he's just like, you're quitting. And like, it is hard, but like, I'm sure you've seen it 50 times. So you probably know the exact line, Nate.
I do know the exact line. Yeah. That was, I'll say it later, was going to be
okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, I love that too. It was like, oh man, just like, it hits all the sports notes beats. And then it also has like a lot more going for it because it's so unique and they've got this great ensemble. So yeah, and it's a period piece that's done really well. Like, I don't know. I'm really, it was a delight to rewatch this.
I loved it again. Review. I really liked, I always kind of forget about the scene when the bus stops and they have to like get everybody back on and he's like screaming about it. And it's just like incoherent gibberish.
Yeah.
And I think it's like Rosie O'Donnell who's like, was that English? Like when he's telling them to get on the bus, he's like, and he just does such a good job of
it's like a background comment too. You just hear happening. Like, There's a lot. So I think every actor in this movie at some point has a very funny line.
Yeah.
Like everyone's got a good quote. Everyone's got a good joke. To go back to Tom Hanks, Jimmy Dugan, he's been quoted as saying this is his favorite performance of himself. Like Tom Hanks thinks this is his favorite of everything he's done, which is so fucking funny. Like just get to be a rude, angry, drunk person.
I mean, when he comes into the locker room for the first time, drunk as hell, and goes for the long pee. Maybe the greatest long pee in movie history besides like the Austin Powers long pee. I mean, it's right up there. And when he leans his head on the windowsill, it's like, come on.
So again, I was reading too much trivia about this movie. Apparently he didn't even know when that was going to end because somebody was in a stall with a bucket of water just pouring. So like it just kept going and he just had to keep going. It was like, son of a bitch.
That's Genius. Super funny. It's also a great way because I didn't really think about this much when I was younger, but like just kind of shattering like back in the 40s, like just, he's walking into the girls' locker room, which they're already dressed, but then just like he's using their bathroom and it's just sort of a line that's not really supposed to be crossed.
Yeah, how shocked they all were.
And they're all just like, this isn't right, except for like May, who's kind of been more along, like she's been like dancing and kind of in more...
She's more hip to
scandalous situation.
What's really going on out here in these streets? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so she's just kind of like, "Whoa, this is funny," and everybody else is just like,
And that one, I forget the character's name, but that one girl's still like, Jimmy, would you sign my husband's baseball card? He just rips it up instantly.
Yeah, that was Betty.
Oh, Betty. Yeah, it's right after he pees.
By the way,
he just walks out. It's like, let's go.
Last thing on that last game, or the World Series, they lost their best hitter, got married and just like quit for the season.
Yep.
And then their best overall player, their catcher, missed the first 6 of 7 games.
Yeah.
And their best pitcher got traded to the other team, and their second best pitcher left the team because her husband died.
Yeah.
How did they almost win?
What about adversity? Like,
right?
That's overcoming adversity, and it kind of shows you that Jimmy Dugan is a good coach. I mean, he kept him in it. Even his kind of weird little pep talk / prayer before the last game.
Oh my God. And the little side thing about the waitress in South Bend in the prayer.
Thank you for that funny. Waitress in South Bend.
Yeah, and a few of the girls start kind of looking at each other like, did he just say what I... Like...
Yeah, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah.
Oh, man. Great movie. Should we get to the stars? I mean, in the retro reviews, it's not really the focus, but I feel like we might as well.
We gave it. I mean,
we can.
Is this a 5-star movie for you, Nate?
I have it as a 4.5.
Okay.
Like a very strong, like a rock solid, will never waver 4.5.
Okay.
It's like right on the brink of 5. I just kind of have, I don't know. It's kind of like with you in The Green Knight, where for a long time you were just like, I don't know, but I just can't.
I can't do it. I will say the one, the only parts that really kind of showed its age, or that I felt like, mostly like that opening, and they've got like the Madonna soundtrack. And that's kind of feels a little dated, and just kind of like, I don't know, like that song.
I will say, I don't disagree with you, but because I watched this movie so many times as a kid, it feels perfect to me.
Like, it no longer bothers you. It
never bothered me. It was just like, it's just the way the scene is, and it's something that I could never imagine being done differently. That's not to say that watching this with like fresh eyes, or like somebody saying like, I would have maybe liked a different song.
Yeah,
that's not wrong. But I watched this movie like 30 times before I was 8. So.
Yeah. I'm also going to give it a 4.5. For me, it's between a 4 and a 4.5. I've kind of been thinking since I watched yesterday, like when I was done, I was like, oh, definitely a 4. And then talking about it with you and just thinking about the individual moments, and also kind of like you were mentioning, like the stakes of like, if this wouldn't have been good, there just never would have been another movie. Like, it just would have been a forgotten thing.
Yeah.
And instead they like had to like plant the flag and be like, and actually make it a good movie, and to make the points they wanted to make. And they pulled that off. And then the touching scene that gets it to a 4.5 for me is when we first meet Marla and her father. And just when they're sitting at the train station, and she doesn't want to go, and she's nervous, and just like the genuine like love there, and how he's just like, Marla, nothing's ever going to happen here. And he just wants his daughter to have a good life. And I just think that was so touching and well done. And, we don't see him again after that. Just really briefly at the wedding, but it's just those little things, this getting a lot done with only, short amounts of screen time. I thought it was fantastic.
I'm of the same opinion. I was between a 4 and a 4.5. I actually just changed it to a 4.5.
Nice.
So, and for two main reasons. I mean, this is one of the funniest movies I've seen in the last couple of years. I was out loud laughing, like roaring with laughter.
I feel like a lot of the comedy holds up for 1992. Sure. A lot of comedies from the 90s do not hold up, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah.
But this one got me.
For the humor, like everybody's got a line that makes you laugh. Like the situations are all pretty hilarious themselves, and then the commentary within it is good. But the heartfelt moments, the one I really thought of first, besides the one we talked about on the bus with Rosie O'Donnell and her boyfriend, and that whole camaraderie thing, it's when they find out that Shirley can't read, and just one of the girls just stands. There's like 60 girls just sitting there, and the guy's berating her for being like, oh, you don't know if you're on the team, you should probably go, like you suck. And somebody just stands up and is like, hey, like, can you not read? Like, can I help you out? And it's just like that moment of like interpersonal, like caring about somebody else.
And then they all clap.
Everything we've been talking, like
they all clap and they cheer out. Like, what a great moment. Like,
Yeah.
it makes you just instantly love Shirley Baker.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I feel like that if you were to make a sports movie, like that stuff doesn't happen anymore. There's not like
Or
that
it didn't
type of
need to-
sentiment isn't around all the time anymore, and it's
Well, and that's where
disappointing.
this focus was on baseball, but also about other things and about these women finding a place where they belonged, and also just showing like, nobody taught her to read, or like there's this expectation that like, don't worry, they're playing baseball, but they still know how to make coffee.
I mean, they're all from like bumfuck nowhere in the Midwest, and they get bussed to Chicago.
All over
the country. But like they play in Racine, Kenosha, South Bend, and Rockford, Illinois, and it's like they're people from like small farm country. Like they probably don't know how to read, and it's just that type of stuff was awesome. And I think the last bit of trivia I'll leave you with is the World Series game. When they were filming it, it was over 100 degrees where they filmed it, and all of the women in the game are wearing authentic uniforms. They're all wool.
Wool. Oh man,
so extra hot. And to entertain all of the extras during the filming of this scene, Tom Hanks did a puppet show from the dugout. So he's just got like sock puppets on his hands. Like, I think that's the funniest goddamn thing. Like, can you imagine just sitting there and like Tom Hanks in his prime, dressed as this like gross guy, just being hilarious for however long. So I think there's just a ton of stuff that elevates this. It's something I can't wait to watch again. And I just can't believe how fucking funny it was.
Absolutely.
Couldn't
have said it better myself. All right. And directed by Penny Marshall, who definitely had a good run.
We did not give any time to.
We didn't even give Penny Marshall even a one shout out at all. But
we should. I was just gushing about what she what I got to watch that she did. I forget. We absolutely should have. She did a great job with this movie.
Yeah. Also did Laverne and Shirley. She also did Big with Tom Hanks. Also Awakenings with De Niro and Robin Williams.
Awakenings is a like really kind of hidden gem, I think.
I've never seen it. So maybe I'll have to add that to the list. But shout out to Penny Marshall as well. All right. Was there anything else we wanted to mention about A League of Their Own, other than if you haven't seen it and you still listen to this episode, go check it out. We even knowing how it ends, you need to check it out. It's that good.
On Amazon Prime, it's streaming for free right now.
Absolutely.
Go get it.
There you go.
All right. Nate, I heard that it was your turn to put a wrap on the show.
It is my turn.
All right. Take us away.
It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great.